Hi everyone. Welcome to English Story Podcast. Today, I want to address a question I get all the time from my students. Why do I need to read in English? They often think attending classes, doing homework, and watching films in English is enough. But let me tell you, reading is the secret ingredient to mastering English. Stick around and I will explain why. Why reading is important. Firstly, let's talk about why reading is more important than ever. Did you know that in 2006, only 1 in 100 people attended university? Now, it's 7 in 100. Whether you are aiming for an office job or working as a mechanic, all jobs today require more reading and writing than ever before. Reading is a skill that will give you a significant edge in any field. Think about the last job application you filled out or the last time you had to send an important email. How confident did you feel in your ability to communicate clearly and effectively? Let's dive into some historical context. A century ago, the average person's daily reading might have been limited to a local newspaper or a few letters. Today, we are bombarded with text from all directions, emails, social media, news articles, and more. The ability to read and comprehend quickly is not just a bonus, it's a necessity. In fact, a study by the National Literacy Trust found that individuals with higher literacy levels are more likely to be employed, earn higher wages, and have better health outcomes. Next comes the benefits of reading. Reading is the best way to improve your overall proficiency in English. It enhances your speaking, writing, vocabulary, and grammar more effectively than any other method. While it might not directly improve your listening skills, a richer vocabulary will help you understand spoken English better. The more you read, the easier it becomes to follow conversations and absorb new information. Let's break this down a bit. When you read, your brain is exposed to proper grammar and sentence structure, which helps you internalize these patterns. This exposure makes it easier for you to replicate them in your own speech and writing. You also encounter new words in context, which helps you understand their meaning and usage without having to look them up. This is a much more natural and enjoyable way to learn vocabulary than rote memorization. Moreover, reading different genres and styles can expose you to a variety of vocabulary and expressions. For example, reading a mystery novel might introduce you to words related to investigation and suspense, while a romantic comedy might provide you with idiomatic expressions and colloquial language. Each book you read broadens your linguistic horizon and equips you with a richer set of tools to express yourself. Reading for pleasure. Now, I'm not talking about the boring textbooks and exercises you might remember from school. I'm talking about reading for pleasure. This means picking up a book that you enjoy just for the sake of it. When you read for pleasure, you're not doing it because a teacher told you to or because you feel you should. You are reading because you genuinely want to. Think back to a time when you were so engrossed in a story that you lost track of time. That's the kind of reading I'm advocating for. Pleasure reading can be a novel, a magazine, a comic book, or even an interesting blog post. The key is that it should be something you find enjoyable and engaging. When you read for pleasure, you are more likely to stick with it and make it a habit. Supporting evidence. In 1965, an experiment was conducted in juvenile reform centers in the US. Boys who were given exciting books like James Bond novels without any obligation to read them ended up reading a lot. Some even read a book every 2 days. After 2 years, these boys showed significant improvement in their reading and writing skills and had a better attitude towards school. Those who did not get the books showed no such improvement. This is not just true for native speakers. In Fiji, students learning English through reading methods outperformed those in traditional classes. The same results were found in Singapore, where students who did sustained silent reading excelled in grammar tests compared to those who only did grammar exercises. Let's delve deeper into why these methods work. When students read extensively, they are exposed to language in a meaningful and enjoyable way. This helps to reinforce vocabulary and grammar without the pressure and boredom that often accompany traditional methods. Silent reading, in particular, allows students to immerse themselves in the language, making connections and absorbing patterns naturally. In Singapore, the study found that students who engaged in sustained silent reading performed better in grammar tests than those who only did grammar exercises. This might seem counterintuitive at first, but it makes sense when you consider how we naturally acquire language. By reading regularly, students encounter grammar in context, which helps them understand how it's used in real life situations. This contextual learning is far more effective than memorizing rules in isolation. Personal experience. I can relate to this personally. In 2017, I set myself a goal to learn Spanish by reading a million words. I started with easy text, moved on to the translations of books I knew, and eventually read original works by Latin American authors. By the end of the year, I reached an intermediate level and could comfortably understand and converse in Spanish. Most of my learning came from reading, not speaking. Let me share a bit more about my journey. When I started, I felt overwhelmed by the sheer volume of new words and grammatical structures. But I chose books that interested me, starting with simple children's stories and gradually moving on to more complex novels. One of the first books I read was a translation of Harry Potter. Since I was already familiar with the story, it made it easier to follow along and understand the text. As I progressed, I began reading works by authors like Isabella Allende and Gabriel Garcia Marquez. These books were challenging, but they were also incredibly rewarding. Not only did I improve my language skills, but I also gained a deeper appreciation for the culture and history of Spanish speaking countries. Choosing the right material. It's crucial to read books that are easy and fun. If a book is too difficult or boring, put it down and find another one. Stephen Krashen, a language teaching expert, advises reading material that is so easy you would not feel guilty reading it in your native language. This could be comics, magazines, detective stories, romances, or even translations. The key is to enjoy what you are reading. You might be wondering, how do I know if a book is too difficult? A good rule of thumb is the 98% rule. If you can understand 98% of the words on a page without looking them up, then the book is at the right level for you. This might sound high, but it ensures that you can follow the story without constantly stopping to check a dictionary. This way, you can stay immersed in the narrative and enjoy the reading experience. Here's an exercise you can try. Pick up a book and read the first page. Count how many words you don't understand. If you find more than two unfamiliar words in every 10, the book might be too difficult for you at the moment. Don't be discouraged. Just look for something a bit easier and come back to that book later when you have built up more vocabulary. Now, I want you to think about a book or type of reading material you really enjoy. It could be anything from a fantasy novel to a travel blog. Take a moment to reflect on why you enjoy it. Is it the story, the characters, the writing style, or something else? When you find reading material that resonates with you, you are more likely to stick with it and make reading a regular part of your routine. If you find a book too hard, choose something simpler. If it's boring, find something more engaging. Not everyone will love my writing style, and that's okay. The important thing is to read what you enjoy. Remember, when we have fun, we learn much more effectively. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the English Story Podcast. If you want to learn about how to learn English, subscribe to our channel. Happy reading and happy learning.